The phone. Lance had not thought about his phone in weeks. It had been useless on the island, a dead rectangle in his pocket, a reminder of everything he couldn't reach. He pulled it out now, more from habit than expectation, and when the screen lit up and the signal bars appeared in the top corner, all 5 of them, full and strong and entirely real. He made a sound that was not quite a word. He stood on the empty sidewalk in front of Happy Donut and stared at 5 signal bars like a man who had just seen something miraculous, which was exactly what he had done. His hands were not entirely steady when he found Juliet's number. He pressed call and held the phone to his ear and heard it ring. Once, twice, and then her voice, thick with sleep, confused, cautious.
Hello?
It's me. It's Lance. I'm in Palo Alto. I'm outside Happy Donut. I need you to come get me.
A silence on the other end. Then,
Lance, Are you okay?
I'm okay. I'll explain everything. Just come.
I'm already getting my keys.
she pulled up 12 minutes later, which meant she had driven faster than she should have, which meant she had been more frightened than she had let on in the call. The car stopped and the door opened, and Juliet Bradley stepped out onto the empty pre-dawn street and looked at him across the roof of the car, with an expression Lance had no adequate word for. Relief and fury and love, and the specific exhaustion of someone who has been quietly terrified for a long time, and is only now allowing themselves to feel it. She crossed the distance between them in 3 steps and held on to him with both arms and said nothing for a long time. Lance wrapped his arms around her and pressed his face into her hair and felt, for the first time since stepping onto that Gulf Stream all those months ago, that the world was the right size again.
You're here.
Just confirming it for herself.
I'm here.
She pulled back and looked at him. Really looked. The way she looked at things she was trying to understand. Her eyes moved across his face with the careful attention of someone taking inventory. Whatever she found there made something in her own expression shift.
I knew something was wrong. The emails kept coming. I know how that sounds. Like I should have been reassured. But they were wrong, Lance. Not dramatically wrong, just slightly wrong. The way an imitation of something is always slightly wrong, no matter how good it is.
What do you mean?
Little things. I asked you once, asked the email, why you couldn't call. The reply was that the phone systems were down. All of them, apparently, on an island that Dorian Nuri built from scratch with unlimited funding. I asked if you could come back for a weekend. The reply said you were too busy, but Lance, you have never in your life been too busy for me when I've actually asked. That's not who you are. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what.
Lance felt something move through him that he didn't have a clean name for. Gratitude, maybe. Or the specific and humbling feeling of being known so completely that even a forgery of you fails the test.
The emails weren't from me. None of them. Dorian's people wrote them. The whole time.
Juliet was quiet for a moment. She absorbed this with the stillness of someone who had already suspected it and is now simply having the suspicion confirmed. Then she nodded once, a small, precise movement that meant she was filing it away to feel fully later. Because right now, there were more important things.
I have a lot to tell you. Things that are significant, Juliet. Things that need to be dealt with quickly. There are people on that island who need help, and I don't know how much time we have before.
Ethan is flying in this afternoon.
Lance stopped.
I called him a couple of days ago. I tried Dean Ehrlich first. He was useless, kept telling me the research was going wonderfully, that Dorian had been sending him updates, that everything was fine. I didn't trust that. So I found Ethan's number, the one you left in your desk drawer, and I called him and told him I thought something was wrong. He took me seriously immediately. He's been working on it since, and he lands at SFO at 2 this afternoon.
Lance stood on the empty pre-dawn sidewalk in front of Happy Donut and looked at the woman he was going to marry and felt, underneath everything, the exhaustion and the relief and the weight of everything that still needed to be done. something that was simply and completely love.
You called Ethan.
Someone had to. You were busy.
He laughed. It came out rougher than he expected, like something that had been waiting too long, and he pulled her close again and held on. And the street was quiet around them, and the donut shop was dark, and the California morning was just beginning to suggest itself at the edges of the sky. They had a lot to do, but for 30 more seconds, they stood on the sidewalk and let the world wait. Moffett Federal Airfield looked exactly as Lance remembered it. The long, flat geometry of a military base, efficient and unapologetic, the kind of place that made no effort to be anything other than what it was. He had been here before, under circumstances he hadn't expected to repeat. They were met at the entrance by a young officer who said very little and walked very quickly, leading them through a corridor of institutional green walls and fluorescent lighting into a building that smelled of coffee and institutional cleaner, and the particular purposefulness of people who worked on things that mattered. At the end of a hallway, the officer stopped at a door, opened it, and snapped to attention with a salute so crisp it could have cut glass. Then he stepped back, closed the door behind them, and was gone. Commander Ethan Stratford was already there. He was standing at the window with his back to the door. The same contained, deliberate posture Lance remembered. The posture of a man who had learned long ago that stillness was its own kind of authority. He turned when they entered, and the formality ended immediately. He crossed the room and shook Lance's hand, and pulled him into a brief, firm embrace. The kind military men gave when they were genuinely glad someone was alive. And then did the same with Juliet, who held on a beat longer than protocol would have suggested.
Good to see you both. You look like you've had a time of it.
That's one way to put it.
They sat. Someone had left coffee on the table. Nobody touched it.
Tell me everything.
Lance told him. Not everything. The full account would have taken hours, but the shape of it. Dorian Ashford Nuri, the island, the assembled scientists and physicians, the purpose they'd been brought there to serve, which was not, as advertised, anti-aging research, but the preparation for the most audacious surgical procedure in human history. At this point, Juliet's expression, which had been carefully composed, underwent a visible recalibration.
He actually did it.
He actually did it. Osei performed the surgery. 11 hours. Dorian's head on a 24-year-old's body. It worked.
Juliet sat back in her chair, with the expression of a person trying to locate, somewhere in their existing model of the world, a place where this fact could be stored. She couldn't find one. Ethan, by contrast, was quiet and still. The shock was there. Lance could see it in the slight tightening around his eyes. But it was the shock of a man who had spent a career confronting the outer limits of what human beings were capable of doing to each other, and had developed the discipline not to show it fully. What he showed instead was something more specific, a deep, slow dismay. Not that the surgery had been attempted, that it had succeeded.
And the young man.
Kale. His family has been provided for. He knew the risks going in. His head was separated from his body during the surgery. His body became Dorian's, and Kale's head. Kale's head is still alive, sustained by machines. No body, just sustained.
The room went very quiet.
He's still alive. Lance, he's still
Alive. Yes.
Ethan said nothing. He sat with it, the way soldiers sat with things that couldn't be undone, completely, without looking away from it. Lance continued. The imprisonment, the nuclear contingency, Dorian's network of instructions sitting in the hands of powerful people around the world, waiting for the signal of his death. The escape. All of it laid out with the concise precision of someone who had been organizing these facts in his mind for the entirety of the flight across the Pacific, and knew which ones mattered. When he finished, the room was quiet for a moment. 3 people sitting with the weight of it. Then Ethan looked at Lance with a measured, almost clinical expression and said, quite deliberately,
How long would it take to rebuild your time machine?
Lance and Juliet turned to look at him simultaneously.
What?
The time machine. How long to rebuild it?
Ethan.
When Juliet called me a couple of days ago, I put my team on Dorian immediately. Full surveillance sweep, communication channels, financial networks, travel records, everything. We couldn't find him anywhere. No trace, no communication. For a man of his profile, That kind of absence is itself a signal. But that's not the important part.
He looked at both of them.
Just before I landed, I received intelligence. My team has been monitoring certain communication channels, high-level, encrypted, the kind of traffic that moves between very powerful people who believe they're speaking privately. There is significant chatter on those channels. Chatter that indicates Dorian Ashford Nuri is dead.
The silence that followed was absolute. Lance felt the blood leave his face. Beside him, Juliet made a sound that wasn't quite a word.
That's not possible. When I left that island, he was in perfect health. I watched him give a speech. He was walking, talking, completely recovered. He was... How?
We don't know the circumstances. What we know is the chatter, and these are not internet rumors, Lance. These are people with real authority, receiving real information through channels we have spent considerable resources to access. I believe it's true.
Lance sat with that for a moment, and then, with a cold settling in his chest, the implication fully assembled itself. Dorian had said it himself. Sitting in the machine building, calm and entirely certain. If I die, the instructions go out. The sequence begins.
The contingency.
Which is why I asked about the time machine.
I'm not rebuilding the time machine. Even if I wanted to, Ethan, it would take months, maybe a year. We don't have that kind of time before whatever Dorian set in motion starts moving.
With the full resources of the United States government behind you?
Lance paused at that. He had thought, when he was escaping, when he was planning, when he was standing at the console with his finger on the keyboard, that getting to Ethan was the answer. That once he was off the island and Ethan was in the picture, things would resolve. He had not anticipated sitting in a room at Moffat with Ethan asking him to consider doing the one thing he had sworn he was done with. Juliet broke the silence.
Before any of that, we need to get those people off the island. Whoever built the replica time machine is still there. If you genuinely end up needing to rebuild it, Lance, that person's knowledge would matter. And regardless, with Dorian dead, what happens to everyone still on that island? The guards, the scientists, all of them. And Kale. We can't leave them there.
Lance looked at her. Ethan looked at her. Neither of them had an argument.
How many guards?
20, maybe 30. The island is remote. The scientists aren't exactly a military threat. Dorian kept the security lean.
Something shifted in Ethan's expression, the calculation completing itself.
20 to 30. We have Marines stationed in Asia. They can be on that island in an hour, 2 at most. Stealth approach. They'll take the security before anyone knows they're there. We'll bring enough force to handle any complications.
He looked at Lance.
You'll need to come with us, obviously.
He turned to Juliet, and something in his expression suggested he already knew what was coming.
I'm coming. That's not negotiable.
Ethan looked at her for exactly 1 second.
Wheels up in 30 minutes.
The military carrier was loud, in the way large aircraft were always loud. A constant, bone-deep vibration that became part of the air itself after the first hour. Lance sat between Juliet and Ethan, all three of them in headsets, the communication channel alive with the periodic crackle of operational traffic that Lance couldn't fully follow, but that Ethan parsed with the effortless fluency of someone who had spent a career listening to exactly this. 8 hours, possibly 9, to reach the island. Ethan's Marines were already moving, launched from their Asian base within 30 minutes of wheels up from Moffat, cutting the distance with the efficiency of people trained to move quickly toward problems. Lance sat with his headset on and looked out the small window at the absolute darkness of the Pacific below, and thought about the island, about everyone on it, about Mara, walking out of the building in the warm evening air without looking back, her shoulders straight, about what unfinished work might mean. Juliet's hand found his in the dark of the cabin. He turned his palm up and held it. 4 hours and 20 minutes into the flight, the communication channel changed. A voice came through, clipped, professional, carrying the particular quality of someone reporting what they had found rather than what they had expected to find. The Marine captain on the ground.
Sir, we're on the ground. Situation secured. The situation is not quite what we expected.
Define not what you expected. Additional guards, military personnel?
Negative on both, sir. Guard complement matched the estimate, approximately 30. No military personnel beyond the security detail. Sir, they're all dead.
The cabin went very quiet.
The guards?
Everyone, sir. Guards, support staff, research personnel. Everyone is dead. Except for one woman. We found her in one of the research buildings. She's physically uninjured, but completely unresponsive, catatonic. We can't get anything out of her, including the man we believe to be Dorian Nuri. We found him in what appears to be his private quarters. Looked very peaceful, almost like he was asleep, except he wasn't. One thing worth noting, sir, the man had a scar running completely around his neck, healed mostly, but still very visible. My team didn't quite know what to make of it.
A brief silence on the channel. Then the captain's voice shifted almost imperceptibly, the professional steadiness holding, but something underneath it that Lance identified as the specific discomfort of a trained soldier who had just encountered something for which his training had not prepared him.
One more thing, sir. We found a severed head in a jar, preserved in one of the medical facilities. We're not sure what to make of that, sir. We'll document it.
Kale, Lance thought, and felt the weight of it settle over him like something physical.
Understood. Secure the island. Don't touch anything that doesn't need to be touched. We'll be there in 4 hours.
Copy that, sir. We'll be here.
The channel went quiet. The last 4 hours on the plane were the longest of Lance's life. He had nothing left to do. No equations to write, no algorithm to refine, no problem he could make progress on by thinking harder. There was only the vibration of the carrier and the darkness outside the window, and the same question cycling through his mind without resolution. How? Hours. It had been hours since he escaped. Everyone dead. How did everyone die in hours? He turned it over and over. He found no answer that satisfied. He sat in his headset and held Juliet's hand and waited for the island to appear beneath them. When they landed, the captain was waiting on the tarmac. He was a compact, efficient man who delivered his situation report with the clipped economy of someone who had said it several times already. Island secured. All personnel deceased. One survivor, female, located in a research laboratory, moved to the main building lobby. No signs of struggle. No indication of how the deaths had occurred. Lance was already moving before the captain had finished his last sentence, reaching back for Juliet's hand and walking toward the main building at a pace that was not quite running, but close enough. The island looked exactly as he remembered. The white buildings, the flowering paths, the ocean visible in glimpses between the trees. Beautiful and indifferent and entirely, terribly wrong. Because along the paths, in the doorways of buildings, in the open spaces between structures, people, lying exactly where they had been when whatever had happened had happened. A guard near the eastern path, on his side, his radio still in his hand. Two researchers near the lab complex, one of them still holding a coffee cup that had somehow not spilled. A woman Lance half recognized from the cafeteria, face down on a patch of grass, her posture so completely relaxed it took a moment to understand what he was looking at. They all looked peaceful. That was what stopped Lance briefly, slowing his pace despite himself. Not violent, not frightened. Whatever had taken them had been fast enough that none of them had had time to be afraid. They had been going about their ordinary island morning, and then they had simply stopped. It almost looked like sleep. Lance tightened his grip on Juliet's hand and walked faster, through the main building's double doors, across the lobby, and there she was. Lance exhaled, a long, unsteady breath, and crossed the lobby in quick strides, Juliet keeping pace beside him. Mara was seated in a chair near the far wall, her posture wrong in a way that was immediately visible. Too still, too rigid, her body present and her mind somewhere else entirely. She was rocking, a small, rhythmic motion, barely perceptible, forward and back. And she was making a sound, low, continuous, just below the threshold of comprehension. Words, perhaps, or something that had once been words. Lance knelt in front of her chair, bringing himself to her eye level. Juliet, who had never met Mara, but who understood without being told what this moment required, knelt beside him. They both placed a hand on Mara's arms. Mara didn't look up. The rocking continued.
Mara, I came back.
Nothing. The rocking. The sound.
It's Lance. I came back for you. You're safe now. You can get off this island.
Mara stopped rocking. The silence was so sudden, it felt physical. And then, she screamed.
No. No one gets off this island. No one deserves to get off this island.
And then, she was sobbing. Deep, uncontrolled. The kind of crying that had nothing performative in it. The kind that happened when a person had finally stopped being able to contain something that had been building for a very long time. She was still rocking. The sobs moved through her body in waves. Lance stayed where he was. He kept his hand on her arm and said her name again, quietly, and told her she was safe, and watched her return, slowly, incrementally, like a tide going out, to the rocking, to the low sound, to the place she had gone, where his voice didn't reach. He tried again, and again, and again. She didn't come back. After a while, Juliet put her arm around Lance's shoulders. She was quiet for a moment, looking at Mara, really looking, with the clinical attention of someone who had spent years in hospital settings, learning to see what was actually in front of her, rather than what she hoped was there.
She's in shock. Deep shock. Whatever she went through, whatever she did, it broke something. She's going to need long-term care, Lance. Real psychiatric care over a long time. Maybe she'll come back from this. Maybe not all the way. But it won't be here, and it won't be today.
Lance looked at Mara, at the rocking, at the woman who had walked out of a machine building in the warm island evening without looking back. He and Juliet gently helped Mara to her feet. She didn't resist. She didn't assist either. She was simply wait, present and unresisting. Her gaze pointed somewhere none of them could follow. They walked her slowly across the lobby and out through the double doors and back along the path, past the people lying peacefully on the ground, toward the carrier waiting on the airstrip. It was Ethan who noted it first. The research computers. Every hard drive on the island had been wiped, not corrupted, not damaged, not partially overwritten, completely, deliberately, professionally emptied. The labs looked intact. The equipment was undisturbed. But every system that had contained data, research files, surgical records, protocols, the years of accumulated work that had brought them all to this island, had been scoured clean. Not a single file remained. Lance stood in one of the empty labs and understood. It had been Mara, all of it. She had walked out of the machine building that evening with tears on her face and a smile that hadn't reached her eyes, and said she had unfinished work to do. And she had done it. Every piece of it. The island's work would not leave the island. The people who had carried out that work would not leave the island. The product of that work, Dorian, the proof that it could be done, would not leave the island. She had made certain of all of it. How exactly she had managed the deaths, Lance didn't know, and found he didn't need to. She was a brilliant scientist with access to every medical resource on the island, and everyone had died peacefully, without struggle, which told him enough about the method without needing the specifics. She had been humane about it, in the way that a person who is doing something terrible can still choose to be humane about the manner of it. And then she had wiped the computers. And then she had sat down in a chair in an empty lab and begun to rock. The price of what she had done had been her mind. Instead of being imprisoned on the island, she had become imprisoned within herself. Her mind was her cage now. Lance walked out of the lab and didn't look back. They left the island as the sun was beginning its descent toward the ocean. The carrier lifted, banked south, and the island fell away below them. The white crescent of sand, the impossible green, the blue water surrounding it on all sides. And then it was gone. In the days that followed, Lance and Ethan worked through the problem that had been sitting at the center of everything since Dorian's death. The contingency, the instructions, the powerful people holding sealed orders in encrypted channels, waiting for a signal that might already have gone out. They kept arriving at the same answer. The time machine. And every time they arrived there, Lance refused.
We can't just reverse time every time we decide the world is about to end. We do a do-over every time the stakes are high enough, and at some point, we're no different from Dorian. just deciding that time should do what we want it to do because we think we know better.
Juliet had always agreed with him on this. Ethan took longer. 3 more days of monitoring, of sitting with encrypted channel traffic, of watching for the first signs of the cascade Dorian had promised. But he came around. He came around because the world, stubbornly and without drama, refused to end. Days passed, weeks. The chatter on the channels Ethan monitored, the high-level encrypted communications between powerful people who had apparently been holding Dorian's instructions, went quiet. Not the quiet of something paused, the quiet of something forgotten. The people who had agreed to carry out Dorian's final arrangements had, it appeared, decided not to. No war, no economic collapse, no cascade. In the end, Lance thought, it made a certain sense. Dorian's plans had been built around Dorian, around his presence, his authority, his ability to make people believe consequences were real. Without him in the room, the instructions were just words. Powerful people did not risk everything for a dead man's last wish. The world had simply gone on, indifferent and unchanged, as though Dorian Ashford Nuri had never existed. Ethan, satisfied that the immediate crisis had passed, returned to his duties. He shook Lance's hand at Moffat and held it a beat longer than usual, and said nothing more than needed to be said, which was nothing. Happy Donut on a Friday afternoon looked exactly as it always had. Sam was behind the counter when they walked in, and she looked up, and her face did the thing faces did when they recognized someone they hadn't seen in a while. A slight recalibration, then a grin.
Where have you been? I was starting to think you'd found another donut place.
There is no other donut place.
They took their usual table. The afternoon light came through the windows at the same angle it always did, and the coffee was the same coffee, and Juliet was across from him, looking at the menu she had memorized years ago, with the expression of someone who already knew what she was going to order, and was enjoying the ritual of appearing to consider alternatives. They tried, at first, to have an ordinary conversation. They got approximately 4 minutes into it.
He really believed it. That the world would stop without him.
Lance looked at her.
Dorian. He genuinely believed that his death would cause wars, that the global economy depended on him, that powerful people loved him enough to destroy the world on his behalf. Not a single one of them followed through. Not one war, not one market crash. His own family started fighting over his estate before he was cold.
Lance was quiet for a moment. He thought about Dorian, standing at the machine-building window on the island, the pride in his face, the absolute certainty that he was indispensable to the continuation of the world. He thought about what it must feel like to carry that belief, the weight of it, the isolation of it. To genuinely be convinced that you are the axis around which everything else turns.
He came with nothing, and he left with nothing. Same as everyone.
The world didn't even notice. Not cruelly, just as a fact.
They sat with that for a moment, and then, without quite deciding to, they let it go. There was nothing more useful to say about Dorian Ashford Nuri. Whatever his legacy was, they would not be the ones to tend it. The best way to honor what he had done to the world, the young man named Cale, the island, all of it, was to refuse to give Dorian another second of space in their minds.
Did we finish picking the engagement pictures?
Juliet looked at him. A smile arrived on her face, slow, real, the one that reached her eyes.
I think we were on 17. We need 30 for the album. 13 more to go.
Sam appeared at their table with the coffee pot, refilled both cups without being asked, and said something about the weather that Lance agreed with without fully registering it. And the three of them laughed at something, and the afternoon light came through the windows at its usual angle, and Happy Donut was exactly what it had always been. Ordinary, unhurried, entirely itself. Lance wrapped both hands around his coffee cup and looked across the table at Juliet, and felt, as he had felt in this place before, and hoped to feel again many times, that the world was exactly the right size. It was 3 days later, lying awake at 2 a.m, that the question came back. Not Dorian, not the island, not Mara rocking in her chair, or Cale's family receiving a check from a dead man's estate, or the peaceful bodies on the island paths. A different question. Quieter, more persistent. Who told him? Lance stared at the ceiling in the dark of their apartment and turned it over for the 100th time. Dorian had known about the time machine, had known it had been used, had known about the memory serum, had acquired the serum, had reconstructed 99% of the machine from schematics that should not have existed anywhere outside of Lance's own memory and the wreckage of a device that had been destroyed. Someone had told him. Someone who knew everything. Someone who was still out there, unknown, unidentified, watching from a distance that Lance couldn't measure. Lance lay in the dark and looked at the ceiling and thought about a shadow he couldn't locate. A silhouette at the edge of his understanding that wouldn't quite come into focus no matter how long he stared at it. He didn't know who it was, but whoever it was, they knew about him, and they were still out there. He closed his eyes. He told himself to sleep. He told himself that it could wait, that Juliet was here and the world was still standing, and Ethan was a phone call away, and there would be time. There would be time to find the answer to this question. He told himself all of that. He didn't sleep for a very long time.